Hi, everybody. Welcome to North of MAGA. I'm your host, Pierre Shields. I'm here to give you a Canadian's perspective on the American political landscape and to talk about issues going on in the world. So, today I want to talk to you about the exodus of Americans. Um, the Americans are leaving the United States and coming to Canada in particular. So, this is a silent American exodus. Why Americans are fleeing to Canada. Feeling the squeeze in the US and wondering if there's a better way? You're not alone. In 2025, thousands of Americans are making the quiet decision to move to Canada, seeking new opportunities, more stability, and a different quality of life. Today, we're breaking down why the silent exodus is happening now. What's pushing people out of the US? What's pulling them north? And what it all means for both countries going forward. The Great Northward Drift. There are shocking new statistics. Although precise numbers are still being compiled, several recent sources point to a significant uptick in US born permanent residents moving to Canada. Canada's 2025-2027 immigration levels plan targets 395,000 new permanent residents in 2025, with substantial numbers in the temporary residence stream as well. These are the people with work permits and study permits. Also, there has been a clear surge in expression of interest. For example, searches by Americans for how to immigrate to Canada shot up dramatically after the 2024 US election. So let's look beyond the headlines at who's moving and why many of those moving are skilled professionals, young families, or people in fields like tech, healthcare, or education. These people believe their credentials will translate well in Canada. Also, there are more Americans applying for refugee or asylum status in 2025 than in all of 2024. Though the numbers are still relatively small, this signals a different kind of move. Now, let's dispel a myth. A myth is that everyone moving to Canada is politically motivated. While politics is a factor, many are driven by economics or quality of life concerns. What are the push factors? What's driving Americans out? I said out. I said out. The first push factor is economic anxieties. Rising costs of living in many U.S. metro areas paired with job market stagnation for mid-skilled workers are worrying many. Inflation continues to loom. Even people with decent incomes find themselves squeezed. The next push factor is political polarization and social unrest. For many, the increasing polarization, policy instability, and concerns over civil rights are more than just headlines. The last push factor is healthcare and social safety nets. Canada's universal healthcare, more generous federal leave policies, more stable public services are increasingly seen as major advantages. Americans, frustrated by high insurance costs, surprise medical bills, or lack of coverage, are looking north. Pull factors, Canada's irresistible lure. The first pull factor is Canada's immigration pathways and policies. Canada's express entry system, provincial nominee programs, and economic class immigration have made it relatively more transparent and attainable for skilled professionals. Though competition is stiff, many Americans qualify based on education, English proficiency, and work experience. Also, the 2025-2027 Immigration Levels Plan shows Canada planning to admit a large number of temporary residents, which for some is a stepping stone to permanent residency. The next pull factor is Canada's quality of life. Canada routinely ranks high in global livability, safety, environmental quality, low crime rates, public trust, and social support. For many, these metrics are no longer nice extras, they're essential. Things like more affordable or predictable healthcare, better paid leave, stronger labor protections also draw people. The last pull factor is Canada's cultural resonance. Shared language, similar culture, and democratic institutions make Canada feel like home. Also, for some, the perception of Canada is far more socially progressive, welcoming, tolerant, or offering greater personal freedoms. The human stories behind the numbers. What are the impacts on families? Well, children have access to better public schooling, there's more generous parental leave, and they live in less violent environments. What about integration and adaptation? Not everything's easy. The weather is harsher in many places. The cost of housing in places like Toronto and Vancouver is high. Waiting lists for healthcare for certain specialized services are long. There are cultural adjustments needed. Absolutely. Absolutely. What this means for both nations. Well, the economic implications for Canada are the first one's good. It's a brain gain. Canada potentially benefits from immigration of skilled, educated workers, which can help in sectors with labor shortages. The challenges include housing pressures, infrastructure costs, healthcare capacity, schooling, and integration costs. What are the impacts for the US? Well, the loss of talent, especially those disillusioned with the political social climate or unable to afford basic services. US Canada relations and shifting demographics. As more Americans settle in Canada, there may be increased cross cultural influence, twin diaspora communities, and many more voices pushing for bilateral policy accommodations. It could shift public opinion or electoral politics in border regions. Predictions for 2026 and beyond. Will this trend accelerate? Probably. If push factors in the US worsen, the cost of living, inflation, healthcare crisis, political instability, and so on, and if Canada continues to maintain relatively open immigration and strong quality of life, but it could slow down or plateau if Canada tightens immigration, which it is currently doing. The silent American exodus is more than whispers and memes. It's a real growing movement shaped by economic pressure, political concerns, values, and a search for stability and dignity. Canada doesn't offer a utopia, but for many, it's increasingly seen as a viable, perhaps better alternative. If you're considering the move, do your homework. Immigration pathways, cost of living in specific cities, taxes, healthcare, friends, family, and yes, climate. And keep watching this story because its ripple effects are only just beginning. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, hit like, share with anyone thinking about moving, and subscribe if you want updates on these immigration trends.